Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Administrator, you recently replaced all 7 members of the EPA Clean Air Scientific Advisory Committee that advises the EPA on national air quality standards. You, a former coal industry lobbyist, appointed 4 state agency members that work under Republican governors. The committee chair is an industry consultant. There is no one with expertise on public health. The committee disbanded all scientific experts on particulate matter and ozone. This stands in direct contravention of congressional intent. This morning, Dr. Bernard Goldstein, former chairman of the committee and EPA assistant administrator under President Reagan, wrote an op-ed in the Post declaring he would resign in protest of your systematic undermining of scientific integrity and the wholesale giveaway to polluters and industry. How do you respond to this alarming article from Dr. Goldstein?
I have to say I've not seen the article yet. That does concern me, though. I don't believe we've done that on the CASE Act. I didn't hand select any of the people on the CASE Act. They were recommended to me by both by the career staff and the Science Advisory Board office. And I believe we have a very good balance of talents on CASE Act. I believe one person had to resign, who I believe was an epidemiologist, who we weren't able. Or we haven't yet replaced that person. If I'm remembering the right board, it's either the Science Advisory Board or the CASE Act. But the CASE Act committee is charged with reviewing our science on both the ozone and PM NACs. And I know they had a spirited conference call this past week. I'm looking forward to hearing the report. I understand there's a letter on its way to me from CASE Act. I take that very seriously. And I look forward to working with them going forward. I will certainly read the article that you mentioned, but I've not seen that article yet.
Okay, I would imagine that someone like Dr. Goldstein would get his desire to write what he wrote based on a lot of the things that I mentioned are happening. When do you see filling that position that is so important that you said the person resigned?
I believe it was. I'll have to get back to you on the timing on a replacement for that person.
How do you justify the appointment of all the members of the committee and their subsequent actions in removing all qualified scientists from the ozone and particulate standards panel?
You're talking about the sub-panels?
Yes.
So under the Clean Air Act, the EPA is required to update the NACs every 5 years to conduct a review. What we found when we reviewed the process that we had in place, the subcommittees, by the way, are not required under the statute, and they were not contemplated in the 1990 amendments. When we looked at the current process took more than 5 years, and we're required under the statute to review both NACs within 5-year period. So what we did was streamline the process so that we can comply with the Clean Air Act and finish our review within 5 years. CASE Act, and I sat down with the head of CASE Act last summer when he took over the CASE Act, and I told him if you need additional outside scientific expert opinions or advice, CASE Act is free to seek that out and receive that additional advice from other scientists, and they can still do that. But if we were to reinstitute the subcommittees, that would take us past the 2020 deadline under statute, where we're supposed to revise the NACs for both PM and ozone. And we're committed to trying to get both of those done within the 5-year time frame that the Clean Air Act envisions. And that would be the first time the agency's ever met the 5-year deadline, if we're able to do it.
I'm going to give you an opportunity, sir, to make a statement on your behalf. What would you tell people who see all the changes that I mentioned here and how your board was appointed in the committee and say, oh my God, we're just going to go back and undo some fine work that we did in the past? What would you say to them?
I'd say that's not what we're doing at all. The CASE Act members and the members of the Science Advisory Board were selected in large part for geographic diversity, diversity of viewpoints and backgrounds. I would also point out on the one NACs for the PM under the Obama administration, a lot of people asked us to revisit that and to repeal that standard. We did not do that. We kept that in place, and we're taking the review of both the PM and the ozone NACs very seriously. Again, we want to try to get that completed within 5 years. This is what the American people deserve. Prior NACs reviews took 6, 7, 8, even 10 years at one point. And I don't think that's fair to the American public to wait that long to review the NACs each time. After we're finished with the 5-year review at the end of 2020, we will start the next 5-year review. This is supposed to be on a rolling basis so that we're constantly reviewing and the updated science that we receive, and we take the advice and opinions from the KSAC members and from the public, because this, of course, go out for public comment before any final action on the NACs.
My time is up, but let me just finish by telling you that you should take seriously the concerns that exist not only among members of Congress, but amongst the public, that there are people in the administration to undo EPA, to go back in time, to bring us back to the bad days. And you should take that not just as a comment, but something that you should look at if you care about the work you're doing. Thank you.
I do, sir.